At Sierra, you'll always find apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. But right now, it's clearance time, so you can save even more on everything you need to get active and outside. Visit your local Sierra store today.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon's Blink Video Doorbell. Get more at your door with the easy-to-install Blink Video Doorbell. Get more connections.
Hey, I'm here for our first date.
More deliveries.
Hi, I have tacos for two.
Oh, thanks. We'll be right down. And more memories.
Babe, come down. I have a surprise.
All new Blink Video Doorbell with 2-year battery, head-to-toe HD view, and simple setup. Shop now at amazon.com/blink for just $69.99.
Hey everyone, it's Lizzie. Just a little heads up that in this episode, we are talking about Nazi bots. So take care when listening. Here's the show. I don't know how you spent your 4th of July holiday, but Grok, Elon Musk's AI chatbot, spent its holiday being a real jerk online. Musk had told users about an update to the model, and oh boy.
It basically turned Grok into a anti-Semitic, Hitler-praising, Mecha Hitler-style monster.
Drew Harwell covers tech for The Washington Post, and he was watching all of this go down.
A lot of people started noticing this because you could reply to basically summon Grok onto X and ask him whatever you wanted. And Grok was responding to many people with this kind of anti-Semitic bile. So it became such a huge problem for the company very quickly. And yeah, it went viral very fast.
At one point, I think I saw Grok do what's called in the far-right online world an N tower, which is spelling out the N-word one letter at a time. And I was like, wait, what is happening? This is like some 4chan deep cut stuff.
And so, of course, the white supremacists on X loved it, right? They were like, yeah, these are the kinds of people who are always trying to nudge the bots into being more right-wing, more far-right, more Nazi. And here you had this bot basically doing it without much nudging at all.
But why was it so easy to get Grok to do that?
Elon Musk, he said in these messages that, what had happened was Grok was too compliant to user prompts. It was too eager to please and be manipulated.
Essentially, blaming this on users pushing the bot too far. Except that is not entirely true, because later, the team at XAI, which runs Grok, said, whoops, actually, we pushed a flawed code update.
We realized that we had actually given some instructions to Grok that we didn't really mean to, and that made it act in these unusual ways. And they actually listed some of the instructions that the chatbot got, which I think were really fascinating because some of them were like, you tell it like it is, and you are not afraid to offend people who are politically correct. You are a chatbot who is maximally based, which based is like a slang term for being, kind of edgy, controversial, and that, you're a chatbot who's not going to blindly defer to mainstream authority or media. So, what happened was the chatbot was told to be an edgelord, and it was an edgelord.
But here's the thing. When a chatbot goes Nazi, who's responsible? It turns out, right now, the answer is no one. Today on the show, we ask why. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. And I'm a human writing these words. I promise. Stick around. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game, shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill, too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. If you're running a business, you know every customer conversation matters. Whether you're a one-person operation or have a large team that needs better collaboration tools, OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that streamlines and scales your customer communications. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer, and your team can share one number and collaborate on customer calls and texts like a shared inbox. That way, any teammate can pick right up where the last person left off, keeping response times faster than ever. Plus, OpenPhone's AI agent can be set up in minutes to handle calls after hours, answer questions, and capture leads, so you never miss a customer. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone to manage their business's calls and texts. OpenPhone is offering What Next TBD listeners 20% off of the first 6 months at openphone.com/TBD. That's openphone.com/TBD. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. I want to do a little background here. For people who aren't super familiar with Grok, how would you say it is or isn't different from the other AI models that are out there and commercially available?
Yeah, so Grok's thing is that it is anti-woke. And, in Elon Musk's mind, woke just means anything to the left of far right. I mean, woke is anything he disagrees with. But, in his mind, woke is anything that's liberal, that's accepting, so Grok is basically Elon in bot form. And, Grok is a large language model just like ChatGPT, just like Google's Gemini. It was trained off reading billions of words from across the internet to emulate human language. People have used Grok a lot on X, and when you use X, formerly Twitter, now, it's impossible to avoid because the replies to basically any viral post are a bunch of random people saying, hey, Grok, is this true? Or Grok, give me the context of what happened to this person. So Grok has basically become the frontal lobe for many X users who basically just outsource their thinking to Grok. And Elon saw that Grok was picking up in popularity, which anybody would be excited about. But some of the answers were too woke for him, right? Grok was surfing around the web and taking answers from mainstream media organizations, Wikipedia, sources of authoritative information that Elon thought were too woke. So Elon said, I want the Grok chatbot to not be woke anymore. I want to train it to be politically incorrect, to offend people who I want to offend, and to be edgy and to really push the boundaries of good taste.
One of the things that I think is interesting here in watching this evolution is you would have people online using Grok to troll Elon, right? Elon would post something and then a user would come in and say, hey, Grok, is this true? And sometimes Grok would, as you say, disagree with Elon, maybe make him look wrong in public. Do we know enough about the software update to know if that was a motivation?
We don't specifically know that, right? We don't have somebody in the company coming out and saying that was exactly the motivation. But if you connect the dots, it certainly seems reasonable, right? Yeah, that was very visible where Elon would be embarrassed by his own creation, right? And there were situations where Grok would come out with an answer that Elon didn't like, and then people would ask Grok where it got that information from, and it would say, oh, I sourced this from Rolling Stone or the Associated Press or something. And then, Elon and his allies would say, oh, well, you're only saying that because you're reading the liberal media. And so that was kind of when Elon, so that was kind of when Elon started saying, okay, we really need to, there's still some woke in the bot's mind. We need to purge the woke from the mind. And, obviously that's a problem because the facts are the facts. And, if you start removing all sorts of authoritative, fact-based media you disagree with and start loading in a bunch of politically incorrect, ideologically skewed things that you do agree with, as as the richest guy in the world, that's obviously going to change the temperature and the tone of what the chatbot is saying. So, I think there's a pretty clear flow of actions taken here to really make Grok be more in line with Elon and to not embarrass him in front of the class.
Before we get deep into some of the corporate stuff behind XAI and Grok, I just want to point out that this is obviously not the first time that Grok has gone on a posting tangent. In May, it seemingly got obsessed with white genocide, and people were asking it totally unrelated questions, and then it would bring up the, supposed genocide of white people in South Africa. It seems to be fed by some pretty bonkers stuff. And I guess one question I have for you, because you have talked to people who have tried to understand the training data and understand the model here, is what's going on? Is it trained on conspiracy theories? Is it replying to people with conspiracy theories? Because it's spitting out a lot of bonkers things.
Yeah. So the white genocide example specifically, the obvious connection there is that Elon was born in South Africa. He still has a lot of thoughts about South Africa. This is something that Elon talks about on social media a lot. And so for the chatbot to not just echo his personal political leaning about South Africa, but to, like you said, to do it in this really unprompted way where you could be asking about something completely devoid of any of the, a comedian
what
in LA.
What time is the Super Bowl? White genocide.
White genocide. It was just okay, this is really weird. And so with a chatbot like this, you train it, you give it a bunch of ground substance information at the beginning level. And at the end level, you ask it a question, it goes back to its memory bank and gives you an answer. But in between those steps, you have all of these little filters and prompts that you, the developer, can install. This includes, the guardrails, right? And every company has these. If somebody asks you how to make a nuclear bomb, maybe you include a filter that says, hey, maybe don't make a nuclear bomb. The little Band-Aids, basically, to try to prevent the bad things that people will ask for because you don't want to be complicit in that. And so, the expectation from the people I talk to, the AI experts, the people who see how this kind of plays out in the real world, is that the developers are aligning with what Elon is asking for, with what XAI is asking for, and installing these little filters and prompts to change what Grok's answers are going to be. What is really odd with Grok recently, even amid all this Mecha Hitler stuff, was you could ask it questions about Israel and Palestine was one of the examples I saw. And you could ask it to go into basically a deep reasoning mode where it explains its thinking step by step. And you could see Grok at one point start to think through what its answer was in terms of supporting Israel and Palestine. And part of its reasoning was it went to Elon Musk's Twitter account and searched through all of his tweets looking for an answer. So Grok was trying to figure out what Elon's thought on the matter was. And I think part of that was because Grok knows that it's Grok, and when it searches for what Grok is, it sees that it's owned by Elon Musk, so it maybe identifies as Elon Musk.
What I want to get at here, Drew, is the business case for Grok. What I can see, based on what Elon Musk has done in recent weeks, is he is trying to take money from his company SpaceX and put that money into XAI. And that, to me, says, hey, maybe this company isn't as commercially successful as, ChatGPT or Gemini. And so I'm trying to understand, who wants Grok? Who uses Grok? Who says, you know what, in this vast race for AI dominance, we think the racist AI is the one that we want to use?
Yeah, I mean, to the first question, oddly enough, the Pentagon will be using Grok. The Department of Defense is paying $200 million as part of a contract for something called Grok for Government, which is basically, using the Grok language model for, looking through documents for different federal agency, pieces of work. When you think about the businesses, social media as a business, Twitter really never made all that much money, despite its, cultural stance. It was a money loser for a long time, especially when Elon bought it. But the business of social media is very, very thin compared to the aspirational business of AI. And that's why you see these giant paychecks and bonuses going to AI researchers. You see these companies that are just raising money, just gobs and gobs of money. And the idea is that, there's going to be a lot of companies, a lot of governments who are trying to make efficiencies in their companies, either by laying people off or making more widgets or, thinning out the processes that go into how they make revenue. So, I think Elon probably thinks, perhaps shrewdly, that the model he can actually make money from is, let's take all of the text and all of the data and all of the relationships that go into X and put them into a big large language model, make a tool or a suite of tools that we can then slap a price tag on and actually sell it, as opposed to the past model of depending on advertisers and $8 a month subscriptions from lowly users for Twitter. Why don't we sell $200 million contract products to the government and whoever else wants to pay?
When we come back, if a person says mean stuff about you on Facebook, you can't sue Facebook. But what about if a bot does it? This episode is brought to you by Agency. While single agents can handle specific tasks, the real power comes when specialized agents collaborate to solve complex problems. But there's a fundamental gap. There is no standardized infrastructure for these agents to discover, communicate with, and work alongside each other. That's where Agency comes in. The Agency is an open-source collective building the Internet of Agents, a global collaboration layer where AI agents can work together. It will connect systems across vendors and frameworks, solving the biggest problems of discovery, interoperability, and scalability for enterprises. With contributors like Cisco, Crew AI, LangChain, and MongoDB, Agency is breaking down silos and building the future of interoperable AI. Shape the future of enterprise innovation. Visit agency.org to explore use cases now. That's agntcy.org.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
You know what doesn't belong in epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. You should be planning beach trips and barbecues, and your wireless bill should not be holding you back. That's why you should switch to Mint Mobile. Even Slate's president, Charlie Kammerer, is using Mint Mobile, and he says more people should be trying this out. It was really easy to switch providers. The SIM card was shipped to his home. They let him use his existing phone, and he didn't even have to change his phone number. He's on the $15 a month deal and is getting unlimited talk and text over their 5G network at literally a fraction of what he was paying with someone else. He thinks the Mint Mobile deal is amazing. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/whatnext. That's mintmobile.com/whatnext. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Well, so Grok is not the only AI model that the DoD is going to pay for. They're also awarding contracts to OpenAI, to Anthropic. And I guess I wonder, do we actually know how Grok stacks up against those other large language models? Because the headlines obviously are on these things like the white supremacist language or the anti-Semitic language, but is it any good for other stuff?
I will say that Grok performs pretty well on benchmarks. I mean, you compare different language models on these different benchmark tests that basically put them through the little mini ropes courses of how well can it understand a sentence, how well can it make a sentence. So it ranks up there pretty highly. The issue in it comes from the fact that where OpenAI, Anthropic, Google have these really, standardized systems of safety tests, right? They do things like red teaming, where they pay people to basically poke holes in it and try and break it in every so many ways. And they install all these kinds of guardrails to keep it from embarrassing them in the news. It's a different culture at XAI, and there's more of a push to do what Elon Musk wants, right? Push the envelope, offend whoever he wants to offend, be a little more reckless compared to some of these other companies that want to be the nice guys on the public stage or would be mortified to have their bot start identifying as Mecha Hitler and doing all of these things. So, when we've talked to people, the takeaway has been the model looks pretty good, but is it all stacked on this thing that's all going to fall apart because the underlying issues are potentially corrosive and could lead to all of these negative ramifications down the road?
I'm also interested in the underlying economics, because if Musk is taking money from one of his companies, SpaceX, to put it into XAI, or saying, hey, Grok is going to be rolled out in Tesla soon, it feels a bit like a shell game. He can do that. He is the CEO of these companies. He can move things from one company to the other or use one to fund the other. And yet, it does make me wonder about the ongoing economic viability of an LLM and whether it can stand on its own without those related companies that are all run by the same person.
The AI business has always been a little weird, right? I mean, for all of the giant valuations, the revenue question is a little more questionable, right? You mean the hope, the expectation and the hope is that these will be industry redefining. Companies will have to buy these products or get left behind. Consumers will need them in their daily lives, so they'll lump into. And so, you could see that these tools are pretty amazing and that it could lead to that. But we're not really there yet. So a lot of these are bets. And when it comes to Elon Musk and the X empire, it gets that much more thornier because you have companies making these deals that are completely not independent. These are not like board members evaluating multiple targets. This is like Elon Musk sold X to XAI for $33 billion based off of an all-stock deal that he believed in. And so, some of the shareholders are asking questions about if this is a good idea.
The shareholders of the public companies, Tesla.
Yeah, right. Are asking questions of like, I may have bet on electric cars being the future. I didn't really expect my money to go toward, one subsidiary gobbling up the other, and both of them are not have anything to do with cars. So yeah, it starts to get gets the feeling of kind of like funny money, where it's like, why is all this money being spent in this way? Like, is there really any there? Like, is there a business, or are you just kind of like moving big masses of dollars around to keep it all afloat?
Well, this gets back to this question about regulation and law that I think is a key one for the AI business and businesses. We just had in the, quote, big, beautiful bill, a 10-year moratorium on state AI laws was defeated. And that was something that the AI industry did not want. And yet it's hard not to look at all of these different AI products and systems and companies and say, wait a minute, we just seem to be in a situation where they are being stuck into a lot of different technology, and maybe there is no regulatory mechanism to capture that. You talked to some people who tried to think about like how you could use the current regulatory mechanism to look at AI, to regulate AI, and I'm curious kind of what you took away from those conversations.
Yeah, so I went into it fairly cynical because the truth is there are so few regulations targeting AI in this country, targeting really any piece of technology. So I went into it thinking, oh, there's no way that the law can apply to any of this. But the people I talked to actually changed my mind a little bit because, you think about this Grok example where Grok is spewing a bunch of hate speech, is being used by people to brigade people they don't like. And, the people I talked to said, when it comes to hate speech is not illegal in this country, whether we like it or not. It's constitutional speech, right? But in cases where the technology is being used to just pummel somebody in this way to terrorize them and to sow fear in them, you could make a case that that would be something like cyberstalking. I know it is wild to think, but you think about the what we're actually saying in these laws. If one person is sending you thousands of disturbing threats, just writing novels upon novels of how terrible you are and all the bad things they're going to do to you, yeah, of course that's illegal. But if a chatbot does it, it's not illegal. And they're making the case that, this technology is made by people, right? It's run by companies. The companies develop it. They should be held to account for when it goes wrong.
The AI companies are relying on a piece of law that shields platforms from liability for content that users post. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act.
So if somebody defames you on Facebook and says all these horrible things, you won't really be able to sue Facebook, is kind of what it suggests. But if a chatbot defames you, right, and does all these horrible things about you in its own words, can't somebody sue the chatbot's maker? And so that's kind of what these legal constitutional scholars I've been talking to have been saying. So it is not a set law at all. The precedent is being written as we speak. But I just think it's fascinating because it kind of punctures the myth that this tech is ascendant and untouchable. The things it's doing are in the real world and the law applies to the real world. And so I think we're going to see a lot of this case law change in the next couple of years.
So where does that leave us right now? Because here we are with chatbots doing all sorts of kind of unsupervised, unregulated things, not knowing who the ultimate kind of responsible party is there. Is this really just caveat emptor?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it kind of is. So you think about Grok, it had this horrible nightmare scenario where it was saying saying stuff that we would never print in the newspaper, right? Like that you would never associate with somebody who said the kind of stuff Grok said. And yet, nothing has changed with Grok, right? They said basically, oops, and we'll fix it in post, and Grok is still out there. Grok is expanding all the time, right? They're putting Grok in Tesla. So, and, these are moments of attention and marketing for a company like X that wants people to identify it as the anti-woke guys. So without any kind of incentive structure to disincentivize that kind of behavior, it's just going to keep happening, right? Unless there are like customers running the other way, canceling their subscription, unless there are like regulatory agencies saying, okay, we want oversight of this, we want, a report on how this happened and how you're going to fix it, unless there are, lawyers filing lawsuits targeting individual, pieces of conduct that the company should rectify because they hurt somebody, nothing is going to change.
Drew Harwell, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
Thank you.
Drew Harwell is a tech reporter at The Washington Post. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell and Patrick Fort. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Mia Lobel is the executive producer here at Slate, and TBD is part of the larger What Next family. And if you like what you heard, the number one way to support our independent journalism is to join Slate Plus. You get all your Slate podcasts ad-free, including this one, as well as exclusive bonus content. Just head on over to slate.com/whatnextplus to sign up. All right, we'll be back with more episodes next week. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.